Hi everybody, I'm Skip Elsheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime streaming show, where I'm sporting a shirt from one of my favorite museums in the world, which is, actually I have a couple, I realize, but this is from the Museum of Jurassic Technology in Culver City, California, and this is from an exhibit about a bat that someone discovered in the Amazon that uses radar and X-rays versus sonar and can actually pass through physical objects. And they basically trapped it in a giant thing of lead. And so that's what this t-shirt is. I got to also go to one of my other favorite science museums in San Francisco, where we actually did a screening, Exploratorium, which is a really great place. So kudos. I love me a good museum, and I think it's like International Museum Day today, so there you go. I know we've showed films about creating clay works, clay pottery, but we really haven't talked about how you fire them. So finally, we're going to talk about firing. Here we go. Enjoy.
Today, just as in the past, man creates pottery from clay and fire. After the clay pieces have been formed, it is the firing process which hardens them and melts their glaze to a smooth, glass-like finish. Both glazed and unglazed ware fired in the kiln at the same time. To show the steps in the firing process, these two pieces can be compared with an unfired one. All were identical to begin with. The dry, unfired clay piece, called green ware, when fired becomes bisque ware. Glaze is then applied. The more obvious changes caused by firing are in color, in size, and in hardness. In order to reach the high temperature necessary to harden clay and melt glaze, the potter uses a kiln, which is simply a chamber lined with fire brick and some means of being heated. The small kilns used in most studios are heated by gas, oil, or as in this case, electricity. Before the kiln is stacked with pottery to be fired, the shelves made of fire clay must be carefully inspected for glaze drippings from previous use. These drippings would fuse to the bottoms of pieces in later firings, so they must be chipped off. Fresh kiln wash is then applied to the spots. The kiln wash, composed of clay and flint, does not harden in the fire, and thus permits glaze drippings to be chipped off easily. Before being fired, green pottery must be thoroughly dry. Damp pieces usually feel cooler than dry ones. More green pieces can be fired at one time if they are stacked together according to size and shape. Shelf supports should be selected to make the fullest use of the kiln space. The short shelf support will conserve space and can be used if the pieces are rearranged to fit. The potter must use his ingenuity in arranging the pieces to get as many as possible. Additional shelf supports can easily be cut from a porous fire brick. For each firing, the kiln shelves are rebuilt to accommodate the pieces to be fired. There is less danger of damage to the pieces if the heavy, unwieldy shelf is already in place. Each piece or group of pieces must be carefully checked for height before it is placed in the kiln. Green pieces may touch each other or the interior of the kill, but must not touch the heating elements along the bottom or sides of the kill because of the intense heat of the elements during firing. Cups or bowls of identical shape, if nested, often stick together. Instead, stack them rim to rim. Pieces to which glaze has been applied must be fired without touching each other or the interior of the kill. Usually, each piece is supported on a fire clay stilt, which can be double-pointed or single-pointed. Triangular fire clay plate pins can also be used for support. When plate pins are used in this way, the bottom of the piece must be carefully cleaned of all glaze. Firing box covers close to the boxes will ensure a better fit after firing, since shrinkage differences will be less. A double-pointed stilt is used for the majority of pieces. If the stilt is of proper size, the points will touch only the unglazed foot rim. If a piece set on a stilt is slightly high when compared with the shelf support, the substitution of plate pins may lower it enough to fit. In the rear of the kill, where stacking is difficult, a piece can be placed accurately by first gently touching the back wall, then withdrawing the piece at least 1/4 of an inch. A block of porous fire brick, cut to fit, can be used to support a piece in space that might otherwise be wasted. If the foot rim is absolutely clean, a large plate can be set directly on the shelf and is less likely to warp. Glazed pieces must have at least 1/4 inch clearance between them. Where this spacing cannot be readily seen, the finger can be used as a gauge. A piece with a fully glazed bottom must have a double-pointed stilt. These pyrometric cones are temperature indicators. At predetermined temperatures, they soften and bend down. One pair, set upright in a clay pat, is used for each firing. This cone bends first as a warning. Then the second cone bends, and the heat must be shut off. Cones previously fired in various parts of the kill have been used to make this heat distribution chart. This guides the potter in placing each piece according to its heat requirement. The cones must be placed where they will be clearly visible through the peephole during firing. With the kill now stacked, a final check is made on the actual visibility of the cones before the door is closed. After turning on low heat, the potter records the time. The early stages of firing must progress slowly. Not until the interior of the kill is cherry red is it safe to increase the speed of the firing. Hourly observations are made until the warning cone is down. Then a closer watch must be kept until the end of the firing, for the potter knows that careless firing can destroy his work. If the kill were turned off too soon, the glaze would be rough and bubbled. Refiring to the proper temperature would remedy this, but not all firing errors can be remedied. A damp piece would be shattered by the heat of the kill. If space were not allowed for the bending of the cone, it would fuse to any piece it touched. This condition, called slumping. So when the second cone is down, the heat must be turned off. The kiln must not be opened until it is cool. The time allowed for cooling should be at least as long as the firing time, which in this case was 7 hours and 35 minutes. With the termination of the cooling period, the awaited moment. The moment door is cautiously opened, the finished beauty of the potter's art. Good shelf arrangement, correct support for each piece, accurate placement in the kiln, and carefully controlled firing and cooling are all a part of good craftsmanship. The kiln is an essential tool of the potter, for out of it coming of lasting beauty.
Printer problem. Printer problem. It happens. It is always a printer problem. There's always some sort of cabling thing going on. There's a lot of... If you geeks, it's not about films. It's about... Oops. So I just disabled... Somehow, I just by the very nature of touching the cable... there I am. It's all about... No, what's going on? All right. I can't touch anything because everything's gonna... All right, so let me just say this. It's been one of those mornings. We started off the morning by me trying on a Batman costume, and it did not fit. And so if I appeared as a hunchback, it might work, but it would not really work, and it would not cover up important parts of my body. So that was the first thing. Then I was trying to get an HD cam deck to work, and the traditional cabling didn't work, so I had to bust out all this other stuff. I had clients that showed up early, and now the printer's not working, and then just me just touching the webcam cable, it crapped out. So it's one of those days. All right. So let's add more technology to it by watching a film on the scanner called Ritual. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. Enjoy.
The major difference apparently in child rearing in Japan compared to the West is that in the West we try to make the child independent, to make him somehow the master of his own destiny. Well, that is not the case in Japan. The child will be reared to be a member of a human group. Now, we would say, well, then what about individualism? Well, individualism has never bothered the Japanese the way it bothers a Westerner. Of course, in Japan we have individuals also, but they are not individualistic.
There's a wisdom, handed down wisdom from rural days, that they need this festival once in a while to put them together.
When we use the term group in an attempt to understand the Japanese, I think that the term group is misleading, because what we call a group in the West starts from individuals, whereas the Japanese group starts from the group. there is no alternative to work in Japan, because work is simply a manifestation of life. In the West, work has been a divine punishment for sin, on the first page of the Bible. Very interesting. Well, that tradition we don't have in the Orient. So the Japanese works, why? My gosh, the why has no sense. Huh? When you are alive, what else can you do but work? The Japanese are essentially pragmatic or realists. They are where reality is, and reality is at the level of the guts, not at the level of the mind. In our case, in the West, the corporation is, well, grossly stated, an economic entity that you can buy or sell. And our earnings ratio and the like are almost like price tags on a company. When it comes to Japan, no company is up for sale. The reason is that a company in Japan is much more a social entity than an economic entity. You do not buy or sell a group of people. The employee is then a member of the company. He is not a kind of paid employee or whatever it would be. He is a member of the organization. Therefore, no basic objection to automation and the like, because the survival of our company depends on automation. And the survival of the company, that means my survival as an employee. The strength of the Japanese is not that they work hard. Their strength comes simply that they work together. That's all.
ただいまから安全講話を行います。まず一つ残念なお話をやります。しばらく私どもの実習工場の中から怪我がございませんでしたけれども。
So that you see, in the monetary crisis, almost all the foreign people and the Japanese newspaper said the Japanese will get collapse. And after the energy crisis, again people saying, oh yes, Japan depending upon the too much crude oil, so the Japanese economy will get collapse. But we are the most quickest country absorbed the monetary crisis.
お客様のお呼び出しを申し上げます。熱海の暖炉発行様、熱海の暖炉発行様、1階のアイランドまでお越しくださいませ。熱海の暖炉発行様、アンディ・ウォーホル。彼のすべてを日本で初めて
Oh, porno. Yeah, porno. You like porno? Oh, I love the porno. Yeah? You want to go in there?
いいですか？500円でしょ？
そうそう、OK。
OK。
Japanese fine! Auf Wiedersehen, IJP.
If you want to recuperate, you should wipe out your mind. Wipe out for a while. Pachinko parlor is designed to drown your rational mind. A lot of noise, very monotonous droppings of these steel balls, almost like rain, you know. Your mind creeps into in that steel ball, and you become an irrational entity. Because you think you exist is the quintessence of the Western man. Identity comes from his thinking power. Japanese has learned that entire anxiety comes from the thinking power. And Zen Buddhism set out to eliminate that process. Anxiety comes from separatedness from nature, from the universe, from your fellow man. So there must be something between you and other people, some bridge, and that's ritual. The ritual is a bridge between your individuality and the source of life. Death of cursory individuality, death of your illusionary individuality. And that, in the West, will be a most frightening thing. But what Westerners don't realize is the sense of beauty in that. Because you're not just evaporating, you're not just dying. You're partaking in a larger entity. Tokyo is the safest city in the world of that size. Even when students have street demonstrations, you feel safe because it's ritualized. Everybody can decode the signals that these rioting students issue.
まさに勝手を第二次大分合戦の時におけるまさにファッシュの嵐と同じようなことが現在まさにこの日程にあってこの極一致もしこの中国共産党とソビエトが話し合いで一つになったらこうなります。500万の共産軍がおりますよ。これを強化し、共産主義社会の実現に向けて断固としてプレタリアスの独自の戦争を
That was kind of phenomenal. I like slices of life from that culture and from that time. And I have a couple of films that look to Japan. especially corporate culture ones, that were made to be shown to middle management, American folks, to kind of say like, look what Japan's doing, look how great they are, because there was a lot of fear about Japan taking over manufacturing, and so these are trying to dispel that, or try to explain what was going on. Of course, Gung Ho was the comedy attempt to talk about that. But it's interesting looking at other cultures and through what lens you're looking through those cultures. And so, yeah, that was kind of great. What do I got to follow that up? I don't know if I have anything to follow that up, because that was kind of awesome. Well, let's anglicize ourselves by watching this film about the British Isles. Enjoy.
Westward, off the continent of Europe, washed by the North Atlantic Ocean, lie the British Isles, homeland of one of the world's great nations. The British Isles form a region that is surrounded by the sea. It is a thickly settled region of populous towns and cities that sprawl across a rolling countryside. A picturesque and pleasant land of streams flowing through broad valleys, of bleak moors and rugged uplands. It is a region, too, of teeming industrial centers, of black mine tipples on the hillsides. Above all, it is a region of harbors thronged with ships. For Britain is a nation molded by its island position. From the Straits of Dover, separating Britain from France, the isles stretch northward and westward into the ocean. Largest of the islands is Great Britain, with its lowland areas largely in the south and east. And rising westward and northward into uplands and mountains. Across the narrow Irish Sea lies Ireland, a land shaped something like a saucer, with a marshy lowland plain in the center, and a rim of uplands and mountains to the north and to the south. The physical pattern of the islands has shaped their political pattern. The island of Britain has England and Wales in the south and Scotland in the north. These, with the northern part of Ireland, form the United Kingdom under one government. Southern Ireland has a government of its own. Some of the British people still live in quiet country towns centuries old. Others live in the crowded mining towns, but the largest number live in the cities, some in neighborhoods of neat suburban homes, and some in bleak slum areas. These are the people of Britain, a people of a common mold, but descendants of many migrant groups that came and mingled here in the islands long ago. Today, they form a nation of more than 50 million people. Each symbol here represents 1 million people. Most of them live in England and Wales, and about 4 out of 5 of them live in towns and cities. There are 7 cities of over 1 million people, all of them in Britain. And there are a large number of other cities of more than 100,000 people. Those are rich resources, vast fields of coal and extensive deposits of iron ore here lie close together in many places. These two resources have played a major part in the growth of one of the world's oldest and largest industrial regions. Coal is the backbone of Britain's industries. Here, deep in the earth, men dig the black fuel for Britain's furnaces. Coal and iron together make steel, and from the neighboring mines comes about half the iron ore that Britain uses. For the rest of her iron ore, Britain depends on supplies from overseas, from Sweden, from Spain, from North Africa. Scrap iron, as well as some iron ore, comes from the United States. These raw materials are needed for Britain's most important industry, her great blast furnaces and steel works. For centuries, the furnaces of Britain have poured forth iron to be cast and forged and molded in British foundries. From the furnaces of Britain, too, comes some of the world's best steel to be worked in British mills into beams, rails, plates, and other steel products. For Britain is one of the biggest of the world's iron and steel makers. Much of her metal goes to nearby factories where it is made into the finest of machinery, machine tools, and cutlery. Steel also goes to build ships. From Britain's shipyards have come more ships than from any other country in the world. Ships for the fleets of Britain and for the fleets of other nations. For another of Britain's industries, clay pits provide the raw material. Clay from the soil of the islands is worked by skilled craftsmen into a variety of shapes: tiles, pottery, and delicate chinaware. English china is known the world over for its fine workmanship and unusual beauty. The flocks of sheep that graze on Britain's grasslands yield wool for the making of cloth. But most of our wool supply comes from countries abroad, from Australia, and from New Zealand, from Argentina, and from South Africa. The cotton for Britain's textiles comes from the United States and from Brazil, from Egypt and the Sudan, and much of it, too, from India. The wool and the cotton go to supply the great textile mills of Lancashire and Yorkshire. Here they are spun into thread and woven into cloth. The weavers of Britain long led the world in cloth making and are still among the world's largest producers. In parts of the Isles, there are stretches of rich farm country. Here, on the drier east coast, farmers for the most part grow grains: wheat, barley, and oats. Elsewhere, potatoes are an important crop, and other vegetables are grown on the warmer southern coast. Much of the land is in permanent grass. Here, dairy herds are grazed, and fine beef cattle are grown and brought to market in the country towns. Here, too, sheep are brought in from the rougher grasslands, all to be sold as meat for British tables. Food for British tables also comes from the sea. The fishing fleets bring in a plentiful catch, and people in the British Isles eat almost as much fish as meat. These products go chiefly to feed the people of Britain's cities, but they are not enough to fill her needs. More than half of Britain's food has to come from abroad. Neighboring Denmark and the Netherlands supply meat and dairy foods. Other foodstuffs needed by the British people come from far across the world. Grains and meats are shipped to Britain from Argentina and the United States. Grains, meats, and dairy products are sent from Canada and Australia. And meats and dairy products from New Zealand. Depending for so much on overseas commerce, Britain is the world's greatest trader. Our harbors are thronged with ships, many of them belonging to Britain's own large merchant fleet. Here along the docks is a busy commerce, as ships exchange their cargoes. From ships to dockside come goods from countries overseas. And from dockside to ships go British goods bound for markets abroad. Vital to Britain's trade are her many excellent harbors. and her strategic location. The British Isles lie directly across the main arteries of ocean traffic from Western Europe to other continents. From Britain, there stretches around the world a network of shipping routes. Over these sea lanes, Britain carries on her trade for ores, for wool and cotton, and for foodstuffs, as well as for oil, for rubber, and for timber. In return, Britain sends to the world her metals and machines, her chemical goods, her electrical products, her ships, her woolen and cotton cloth, her pottery and chinaware. These products go chiefly to markets in Western Europe, the Americas, the Dominions, and the Empire. This far-flung trade is the life of Britain. Trade has made Britain one of the world's great nations, a nation of empire builders whose history is mirrored here in an ancient city on a river, the city of London. One of the largest cities in the world, London is the capital of Britain and the empire, heart of a nation whose people long led the world in the growth of industry and the development of trade. A nation whose people have fostered a spirit of freedom that has been an inspiration the world over.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I might have to start from scratch. Yeah. I didn't realize the film had ended, and hopefully you weren't in the black too long. Anyhow, apologies to Tom N. YouTube had a crazy moderation thing, and we're trying to get it back to where your comments aren't being hidden. Very annoying. Yeah, today it's just been annoying all day long. So hopefully you guys are not going through that. Like, we're suffering so that you don't have to suffer. Like, hopefully your Friday is going nice and smooth. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. So in the comments I asked when we should do the AV Geeks After Dark, and I think that it's not going to be this weekend, but I think next weekend we're going to maybe either do it Saturday or Sunday, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I'll have more information, and this is open to those of you who voted during the toe tapping tournament, and also to Patreon people. So those people will get an exclusive private link. It will not be broadcast on YouTube or any of the other social medias, because we'll be showing some content that would be flagged, either because of copyright or because of content. So this will be a special show, and we'll do another one, I think, this year, because you guys have been asking for it, and you guys have been asking for it, so you're going to get it. So thanks for tuning in today. Monday, we'll be back, and everything is going to be all right. Everything will be sorted out. There won't be, like, crazy cabling problems. Everything will be great. But I very much appreciate you watching. I appreciate your support by clicking the Super Thanks button in YouTube, or by going to ko-fi.com/avgeeks or patreon.com/avgeeks. Those are all fine ways to support us. But even just hitting the thumbs up button, the like button, going to watching other videos on our channel, those are other ways you can support us as well. So everybody have a great weekend. If you're in Raleigh tonight and you want to see me dressed in an ill-fitted Batman costume, then come to the Science Museum, because we're watching the 1966 Batman. My favorite Batman. I watched it again last night, and it is gloriously good. So if you're in town, come on by. It'd be great to see you. Anyways, everybody take care, and we'll see you again on Monday. Bye-bye.